and so is music.
Ladies!
If not play, make this papa bounce, I know they say. I want me to do it. Only more jet for choco.
And all the movies you can watch basically.
Hi.
Walks through walls and stuff.
So watch us. Follow us.
Connect with us. Television Nigeria.
Hang with the gang.
Part of the fan.
On Flex Arena. It's entertainment. Lips.
Lip.
Your body bang, 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 your body bang. Fire. And I give us when you take a selfie, when you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend the low, come on girl when you take a selfie. When you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend it.
Want to shoot a dope music video at 50% discount?
50% discount?
Yeah, 50% discount. Bougie down to Television Nigeria with world-class equipment and a badass expert crew.
Oga, face your camera now. Shh. Continue.
Where was I? Everything extra.
Carolina, you bad.
Hurry up.
I know say you know this thing you did do, my girl. Say you know. Your body is big, and I know say you know.
There's always something happening in the world of entertainment. From trending hot topics to even hotter music videos, the best events, and the most interesting guests, of course.
It just pushed me.
So find all of that juiciness and more on Posh Spice, the show that brings you all of the most entertaining content from the entertaining world of entertainment.
That's lit, man!
So watch me bring sizzling hot content to you on Television Nigerian. You can watch us on our nice concert platforms, and if you are not a fan of television, watch us on our social media platforms and our web TV, of course.
Don't miss it. Seriously, don't miss it. My job literally depends on it.
Cut a slice of the north central Nigeria with this raw mix of cultures, treasures, and amazing people. Based in the vibrant glory of the beauty of nature with striking landscapes. And that's the best from agriculture, commerce and entrepreneurship. Put in a mix of local politics and governance from a resourceful people with amazing lifestyles, and you are right in the center of the northern Nigeria. North Central Journal, a compendium of people, places, news and views, all in an amazing mix that bears it all. Only on Television Nigerian.
Wow! Television Nigeria sparkling around the whole world. Welcome to Television Nigeria, the #1 fast-growing satellite TV based in the heart of Abuja, transmitting on the free-to-air bouquet online concert platform. Television Nigeria, the home of movies, documentaries, music, birthday parties, entertainment, events, and many more. You can reach us at Television House opposite White House Mansion, Guzape area, Abuja, or visit us at www.tvn.com or call us on 080-9153-5054. Television Nigeria, the #1 choice of the whole world.
This is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seats and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your #1 choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on NightComSat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London. For inquiries, Television Nigerian, broadcast beyond boundaries.
It's a beautiful day in the city of Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. This is Daybreak Africa, a program that helps you kickstart your day. It helps you put your day in the right direction. Of course, bringing you up to speed on happenings, details, and ranging from politics, entertainment, business, and of course, we move over to our African frontiers where we'll bring you up to speed on happenings
around Africa.
In and around Africa. And speaking of politics, speaking of what's happening in the political sphere, yesterday there was an inferno at Ochanja Market in Anambra, Onitsha.
According to reports, it was a truck that was loading with petroleum products. It fell and then its product spilled, and then before you know these things happen, people are not preparing that such things will happen. So measures are not put in place. So when such incidences happen, you find that such occasions always happening. But the issue always is that what was a tanker loaded with petroleum doing in a market. So those are the questions that we're asking, but our heart goes out to the people who lost property and especially lives also.
Although the governor, Willie Obiano, has come out, has commiserated with the family, with the victims of the incident, and then he has said he's going to, he has asked them to come over to a square on Friday to talk to the victims, the families of the victims, and see what the state government can do about it. And he has also set up an investigative panel into the cause of that particular incident.
As much as I would appreciate his gesture, there are things that we should have done to prevent these incidences or this kind of incidences from happening in the first place before even going ahead to make such good gestures, I would say. But that being said, it is worthy of note that the governor is responding adequately or swiftly to ensure that people who suffered some damages, both for properties and the sort, are compensated, even though lives cannot be compensated.
Yeah,
so I had, like I said earlier, I had goes out to people who lost their loved ones.
And speaking of another issue, we had the president yesterday asking that the MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies, that their travel expenses be cut.
Really interesting. I'm excited about the pronouncement. I wish it came a bit earlier, so that by now would have cut down on so much. But it's a welcome development. It's a step in the right direction, and we're trusting that the implementation will come into limelight, because people in ministries, government agencies, parastatals, governors, and even presidential aides, they spend a whole lot just to move from point A to point B.
To buttress that a bit, I think the president, just like you said, it's a step in the right direction. The president is trying to find ways to cut expenses, because you see these ministers traveling up and down over the place.
And then you find one minister traveling with 10, 15 cars, all fueled, all personnel, and you wonder where those monies are coming from.
Definitely. Yes. So definitely it's a step in the right direction. And now moving over to our African frontiers. Yesterday in South Africa, a Nigerian was killed. And this is coming right after we're in talks with the South African government regarding the xenophobic attacks that happened recently.
But it's also important to clear the air that it is not a xenophobic attack. It was an argument it was an incident that sprang up from an argument, a business argument, or a business deal that went bad. So it may be misleading to assume that it was xenophobic. But whatever, guys, it was, whether a business argument or whatever it is wrong for foreign nationals or visitors in your country to be killed for whatever reason, in whatever guise. So I think whether it's xenophobic or not, I think we should frown against it strongly.
Definitely, because these South Africans keep perpetrating this crime. It's a crime against
humanity.
You don't just on your own kill someone like that.
It's murder. It's murder. Whether it was business or whatever it was, murder is murder, and it should be treated as such.
Now, moving over to Ghana, yesterday the Ghanaian authorities had to weigh in on the border closure, saying Nigerian government should reopen borders, the Benin border that was shut. So I think the Ghanaians are not okay with the fact that our borders are shut.
Nigerians complained not too long ago, and now our neighboring country, our brothers in the neighboring countries are now complaining, because like we said, this would affect not just business within, but business around our frontiers, because we cannot rely on ourselves. We cannot solely depend on what we produce or consume. People around us get from us as much as we get from them. So I think the government should look into it to ensure that policies and other modalities are put in place.
Whatever they hope to expect from this border closure, I think there should be a check into it, since our neighboring country is already complaining.
Yes, because they get goods from us. Like somebody said, like the Onitsha people, or in Aba, where shoes and other things are made in Nigerian products. They are not just consumed within Nigeria, they are exported to other countries, especially our neighboring countries like Ghana, Cotonou, and the likes. So if the borders are completely shut, we would suffer, they also would suffer.
Definitely. Yeah. And then today is World International Day, Day for the Eradication of Poverty.
Yes, poverty is an emotional topic, if you ask me, because being around and work in our profession or in our job, moving around, you see a lot of people. In fact, by my definition, I think there's a poverty line and there are people living below the poverty line, and there are a lot of people, like I would say, living below the poverty line.
And it's all over the world.
It's all over the world,
especially
not just
Africa.
Africa takes the biggest blow when it comes to poverty, and I think that's why we have the AU. I think we should come together as a nation or as a continent to tackle all the leakages and all the things that lead other people to living in poverty and even below the poverty line.
One can't help but commend the United Nations for setting up days like this where we get to have awareness, create solutions to whatever problems facing humanity. And this is still Daybreak Africa. We have a lot of stories and details to come right after Business Report with Chinwendu Osisiogo. Daybreak continues shortly. Do stay with us. The Consumer Price Index released by the National Bureau of Statistics on Tuesday showed that inflation index rose to 11.24% in September, barely a month after the border closure. The 11.24% represents an increase of 0.22% when compared to the 11.02% recorded in August. The prices of food items have been on a steady increase since August, when the federal government closed Nigerians' border to the neighboring countries. The NBS report stated that increases were recorded in all the divisions that determined the index, and the food index rose by 13.51% in September compared to 13.17%, adding that the consumer price index, which measures inflation, increased by 11.24% year-on-year in September 2019. Nigeria is losing over 1 trillion naira annually as a result of bad roads across the country, the Senate has said. The Federal Road Maintenance Agency also put the cost in man-hours lost due to bad roads and traffic delays at 1.02 trillion naira per annum. Speaking on the sidelines of a stakeholder forum on road maintenance and reforms organized by FEMA in Abuja, the Senate Committee Chairman for the agency, Senator Gaston Bassi, said findings by experts submitted to the Senate show that Nigeria was losing the amounts to bad roads. He also stated that the enforcement of stipulated laws would help address the challenge of road maintenance. On his part, the chairman of the governing board of FEMA, Tunde Lamo, said funding for Nigerian roads was less than 1% of the country's gross domestic product, adding that it was far less than the 3% of the GDP recommended by the World Bank as a minimum spending threshold. It stated that over 80% of travels in Nigeria were carried out on the road, with about 90% of that being largely federal interstate roads. The nation's total public debt rose by 3.32 trillion naira in 1 year to 25.7 trillion naira as of the end of June 2019, the Debt Management Office said on Tuesday. The federal government owed 20.42 trillion naira as of June 30, 2019, while the 36 states and federal capital territory had a total debt portfolio of 5.28 trillion naira. According to the DMO, the debt stock is made up of 8.32 trillion naira, $27.16 billion external debt, and 17.38 trillion naira borrowed domestically. However, the nation's public debt, which stood at 22.38 trillion naira as of June 2018, increased to 24.39 trillion naira in December 2018 and 24.95 trillion naira in March 2019. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, said in August that the country did not have any debt challenge, but how to generate sufficient revenue. The International Monetary Fund has lowered its global growth forecast for 2019 to 3% in a newly released World Economic Outlook report, down 0.2 percentage points from its estimation in July. Noting that this is the slowest pace since the global financial crisis, IMF chief economist Gita Gopinath wrote in a blog post that growth continues to be weakened by rising trade barriers and increasing geopolitical tensions. Gopinath said that growth is also being weighed down by country-specific factors in several emerging market economics and structural forces such as low productivity growth and aging demographics in advanced economics. The report shows that advanced economies continue to slow towards their long-term potential, with growth downgraded to 1.7% this year compared to 2.3% in 2018. And that's much we have for you today on TVN Business Update. I am Chinwendu Osisiogo. Now we shall be looking at the graphical representations of business stories making headlines. Stay with us.
Thank you, Chiwende Osisiogu, for business report. Now over to our African frontiers for news across Africa.
This is news across Africa on Daybreak Africa. I am Aminu Adamu. The Nigerian Labour Congress Delta State Chapter has started shutting down offices and schools in Asaba ahead of the planned strike over delay to implement the new minimum wage on Wednesday. NLC members were seen patrolling Asaba in a marked Hiace minibus, closing government offices and turning back school children following a threat by a national body of the NLC to go on strike from Thursday if the federal government fails to meet its demand on the consequential adjustment. Before the meetings, Labour was demanding 29% increase for officers at grade level 7 to 14 and 24% adjustment for officers at grade level 15 to 17. While the federal government proposed an 11% increase for officers at grade level 7 to 14 and 6.5% adjustment for workers at grade level 15 to 17. Mr. Goodluck Ofuburuku, NLC state chairman, confirmed to newsmen on phone that Labour was on strike in the state. The state government secretariat along Okpanam Road was equally short as some workers who had reported for work were seen miling around the gate. A delegation from the United Nations Security Council will visit the South Sudan. The high-level delegation, UN mission in South Sudan announced, will be in Juba to support political processes aimed at forming a unity government. According to the United Nations, the high-level delegation of its Security Council members to Juba will be led by South Africa and the United States. The delegation will meet with President Salva Kiir and other signatories to the 2018 Peace Accord, civil society actors, women representatives, and other stakeholders in the peace process. Edmond Yakani, an activist, said the Security Council members should focus on generating political needs for genuine implementation of the peace accord among South Sudan's parties. Yakani said the Security Council delegation should ensure that South Sudanese parties take decisions that can easily be implementable. South Sudan descended into war in December 2013 when President Salva Kiir accused his former deputy, Riek Machar, of plotting a coup, allegations that was later dismissed. In September 2018, the rival factions involved in the conflict signed a peace deal to end the conflict that has killed tens of thousands of people and displaced over 2 million people in the country. The United Nations President Coordinator to Zambia, Ms. Komba Ma-Gadio, on Wednesday lauded the Southern African nation for how it is seriously dealing with civil registration and vital statistics issued by updating legislation and policy and making the process more accessible to citizens. Speaking at a press conference on the 5th Conference of African Ministers responsible for civil registration, Ms. Gadio said it was no accident that Zambia was hosting the important meeting and further stated that despite the importance of identification and ongoing efforts to improve these processes, many African governments still lack adequate, viable, complete, and digital registration systems. Zambia has been updating its policies and making registration more accessible. The country has also built an integrated and digital national registration system that covers Zambians from birth to death. The high-level conference provides an ideal platform for the sharing of experiences, policy guidance, and lessons learned among countries and governments. Cho Young-hae, president of the Presidium of the Supreme People's Assembly of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, on Wednesday sent a congratulatory message to Kais Saied upon his election as president of the Republic of Tunisia. The message wished the president-elect success in his responsible work for the country's stability and development. Libyan army forces under the command of the Presidential Council's government have advanced on Kalatat front line, Khalid Arfujan, and Al-Mahar near Yarmouk camp after heavy clashes with Khalifa al-Haftar's forces since Tuesday morning. The commander of Salah al-Adin frontline, Mohammed al-Darat, said the Libyan army forces targeted 2 military vehicles for Haftar's forces as Libyan Air Force targeted many positions for Haftar's forces. Meanwhile, Haftar's forces announced that a prominent commander of 9th Bridge, Colonel Salim al-Ghaziwi, was killed on Salah al-Adin front line on Tuesday during the heavy clashes. The spokesman for Volcano of Rage Operation Mustafa al-Majia told an Al-Dulo agency that their forces launched Tuesday morning on an offensive to retake lost positions in southern Tripoli. He said Libyan army forces managed to boost its presence on positions at Yarmouk camp and control the entire Kalatat buildings in southern Tripoli, adding that Libyan Air Force warplanes carried out 4 airstrikes, destroying 6 military vehicles for Haftar's forces. That's much we have on the news across Africa on Daybreak Africa. Stay tuned as Daybreak continues shortly.
Thank you, Aminu Adamu, for that wonderful report on news across Africa.
Like we all know, today is World International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. Poverty has been a major concern around the world, but especially in the continent of Africa. And so the United Nations came up with a resolution to mark this day to create awareness on the issues surrounding poverty and its eradication. We will be having a guest in the studio to discuss more on issues of poverty and everything that has to do with its eradication. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Daybreak continues after this break.
International Day for the Eradication of Poverty is celebrated across the globe every year on 17 October to raise awareness about the people who are struggling and living in poverty. As we know that poverty has many faces, it changes from place to place. For some, poverty is hunger, lack of shelter, being sick, or not having enough money. Basically, poverty is a state or condition in which a person lacks financial resources and not able to fulfill basic needs. Poverty-stricken people and families live without a home, clean water, healthy food, and medical attention. Therefore, International Day for the Eradication of Poverty highlights the problems faced by the poverty-stricken people or families and work towards eradicating poverty globally in all its forms.
It is agreed that poverty is widespread. You can see it, I can see it. That is noticeable from the way people feed, from houses people live in, from modes of transportation, everything. Basic amenities, people can provide that for themselves. People sleep in darkness, lack of water, schools, a lot of things. That is the hallmark of poverty, I think.
The theme of International Day for the Eradication of Poverty 2019 is acting together to empower children, their families, and communities to end poverty. According to the United Nations, the day presents an opportunity to acknowledge the effort and struggle of people living in poverty, a chance for them to make their concerns heard, and a moment to recognize that poor people are the first ones to fight against poverty.
The level of poverty have gone beyond what woman is able to think. We've done every human possible best. To my own understanding, we've tried all means to correct everything to eradicate poverty, both in the political, the leadership, and everything. But things are not helping matters. The poverty rate is keep on increasing. The only way I think, with my own understanding, if human effort fail, I know God will not fail us.
The World Poverty Clock has revealed that over 90 million people in Nigeria live in extreme poverty. According to the World Bank, a person can be said to be living in extreme poverty if they live below the poverty line of $1, which translates to about 600 naira per day.
The situation of poverty in Nigeria now has assumed an endemic rate. People are dying every day because of hunger.
In June 2018, the World Poverty Clock had named Nigeria the poverty capital of the world, with statistics showing that over 90 million people live in poverty. Millions of Nigerians have continued to join the poverty club, occasioned by factors such as unemployment, insecurity, among others.
Nigeria is now the poverty capital of the whole world. They have overtaken India. Millions of jobs have been lost since the inception of this new regime. Many people, about 6 million Nigerians, have now gone insane and now mad, walking on the streets as a result of poverty. Many people commit suicide on a daily basis now because of poverty. Millions of Nigerians can no longer afford to send their children to school. Millions of Nigerians are now living under the bridge. And the average Nigerian is now living on less than $1 per day. So it's a very frightening situation. We are degenerating and getting it to a point whereby it will become totally unbearable. And if it becomes so unbearable, when you purchase a goat to the world, the goat will be left with no other option than to fight back. So it's a very hopeless situation.
Although President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration had rejected the 2018 statistics, which solidified Nigeria's position as the world poverty capital of the world, despite world leaders such as Theresa May quoting the statistics to talk about poverty in Nigeria.
Poverty, the rate of poverty is much, and it still continues. And I don't know when it will end. Other than if President Muhammadu Buhari step down, it will reduce or not, I don't know.
Various non-governmental organizations and community charities support the Day for the Eradication of Poverty by actively calling for country leaders and governments to make the fight against poverty a central part of foreign policy.
Governments have a duty to promote the social, economic and political inclusion of all. This global pledge is enshrined in the Sustainable Development Goals. Yet, we still see deep inequalities in people's experiences in later life. The United Nations is committing to do its part to prevent discrimination and ensure the full participation of all the people.
And other activities may include signing call to action petitions, organizing concerts and cultural events, and holding interfaith gatherings that may include a moment of silence.
Wait, stick it down. This is still Daybreak Africa, and today is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, with the theme Acting Together to Empower Children, Their Families and Communities to End Poverty. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the adoption of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, UNCRC, on 20 November 1989. This landmark human rights treaty sets out the civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights of every child, regardless of their race, religion, or abilities. In particular, the Convention recognizes the right of every child to a standard of living adequate for the child's physical, mental, spiritual, moral, and social development. Poverty hurts children's development and in turn leads to lower income and health in adulthood. When child poverty is recognized as a denial of children's human rights, then people in positions of responsibility and power are legally bound to promote, protect, and fulfill children's rights. Above all, it is imperative to recognize and address the specific discriminations experienced by the girl child. It is crucial that children's participation be recognized as a process and not a one-off event. Too often, consultation is mistaken for participation, whereas the process of consultation gathers children's views on a particular issue or question. Participation means that children actually join in decision making. The commemoration of October 17 each year demonstrates how we can achieve greater participation by enabling people from all walks of life to come together to respect the human rights and dignity of people living in poverty. The participation of children and young people has always been encouraged and supported as an integral part of October 17 observances at the United Nations and around the world. This recognizes the important roles children can play by sharing and applying the valuable knowledge they have acquired from their personal daily struggle to overcome poverty. And we have a guest with us in the studio this morning.
And our guest is Akande Daniel Babatunde. He is a human and environmental activist, secretary of Democratic Socialist Movement of Nigeria, based in Abuja.
Yeah.
You're welcome to
Abuja chapter.
Okay, the Abuja chapter.
Yeah.
Good morning,
good morning and welcome to Television Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good
All right,
morning.
so let's kick the ball rolling. Today is the International Day of for the Eradication of Poverty.
Very well.
Now, what's your like a friend of mine would say, what's your working definition of poverty in the first place?
Well, I want to put it this way, because everything that happens in the society borders on the economic aspect of what that society lies on.
Yeah.
And it's on that basis I want to define such define poverty as a means or a way in which individual or someone lives below $1 per day. And that is not just to say it's poverty, but it's extreme level of poverty. So that's the simplest way I can put it.
And that goes to say a dollar is, for exchange, if you're using the naira for instance, a dollar is 300, I think in the market is 360 or 370 naira for a dollar. So somebody living below $365, naira. That is not just poverty for me, that's abject poverty.
and we have to also talk about the Oxfam reports that stated that over 90 million Nigerians are living in poverty. And of course, President Muhammadu Buhari has actually said he's going to lift 100 million people out of poverty. That means, give and take, we have 100 million Nigerians living in abject poverty. And today has been set up by the United Nations. Of course, it's not just in Nigeria that there is poverty, it's across the globe, mostly Africa. And going by your definition, I think there are lots of factors that contribute to countries being impoverished. What do you think?
Well, like I said earlier, the fundamental basis of every society lies on the economy of such society.
Yeah.
And if we look at the whole world, even in the United States, there is poverty. We have people sleeping on the streets, joblessness, homelessness, and others. And that shows that something is wrong with such society. And what is wrong is the system of such society. Like everybody will say, free market system, free market economy, capitalist system, capitalist economy. All those kind of things in the society have effects on individual and the nation in general. For instance, in Nigeria, it's very unfortunate that we are celebrating this anniversary on in a very auspicious moment of our history. We are talking at the moment in which Nigeria is the poverty capital of the whole world. And like the question you've rightly pointed at is that the economy of the system of Nigeria, the economy we are practicing, is neo-capitalist economy. It's economy that gives the resources of the nation to the hands of few minority, the individuals in the society, at the expense of the vast majority. Like the World Bank or UN or World Bank rightly said, in 2010 or thereabout, that 1% of the world population appropriates the 80% of the world resources. What that means is that the 80% of the resources of the world, not only Nigeria, is concentrated in the hands of 1%. So if we are to put that one on a statistical analysis or basis, we will know that this 1% is less than 700 or 800 the population of Nigeria. So on that basis, we know that the system we are practicing has not in any way enhanced or promotes or provide a means for people to be elevated from poverty. Today, I've read when they are having business reports that Nigerian politicians spent 3.3 trillion already this year. You can tell me, if you go everywhere, what have you seen? How does that reflect in any way of life? Today we buy rice at the rate of 21,000, even above.
But somebody will argue that the government is making efforts towards that direction, which is part of the pronouncement that the president made and said politicians, like you mentioned, should cut down on their expenses. People even in government should cut down expenses. Do you think this is also a way to ensure that the resources of the nation are distributed evenly and down to the people who are in the poverty line?
Yes, as a socialist, which at all time confers that the political office holder should cut all their living and even paying allowances, they should cut it down to that of the working class. They are not different from the common man on the streets. They are also human beings like the working people. Today, it is very unfortunate that the Nigerian working people, the creator of wealth of our society, are clamoring for over 365 days now for implementation of 30,000 naira, a petty amount of money. You can see it doesn't amount to anything in the real sense of this society. A family of 2 children or 2 kids they cannot even afford a bag of rice with that 30,000 naira, because if you remove 21,000 naira of a bag of rice from 30,000 naira collected in a month, and you subtract the transport allowance and the transport fare and others, you see that this money is not even enough. It's a poverty wage on its own. It's not a living wage. What, as a socialist, what you can ask for is living wage. And what does living wage means? It means the money that after the whole expenses or everything you have, you still have enormous resources on ground to cater for other things that might occur at any point in time. Those are what we should be clamoring for. It's very unfortunate that the NSC and the labor bureaucrats are not in any way advancing this struggle. They have betrayed and beheaded the struggle for the emancipation of working people and for uplifting the Nigerian masses from poverty.
But the argument also would be that aren't we depending so much on government? What are we as a people doing to get ourselves out of poverty?
Well, you get me to this point of a petty statement made by the president that Nigerians are, the Nigerian youth are lazy. It's very illogical and unreasonable to human being. Someone like me, that's a president of a nation, come out to say that I'm a Nigerian, and I think aside for voluntary jobs I do for the federal government itself, I involved in other activities too. That shows if I could wake up by 5 o'clock and be on my way to work, to sign and come in here, shows that I'm not a lazy youth. That also shows that even when I woke up 5 o'clock, I met Nigerians on the road. There was a note up on the road when I was coming already. That shows Nigerians are not lazy. They are doing something to make sure that they are free from all this. But the environment itself is not enabling enough. What have the government provided for us? The education, which is the basis of all human beings, is not there. Today, it's very unfortunate that the whole education sector has been privatized. It has been handed over to people who can, like for instance, we have a Babcock University, where a student or a child of a poor working person cannot afford to attain education in such level. So those are the kind of things that have not been put in place. Even the water supply at our houses is not there. In most of the advanced countries, people are no longer thinking about houses, where to live. I have an uncle in China. He lives in 8th floor. He's not even thinking about it. Government has done everything, put in place all those things. Thinking about how to survive, Nigeria think about how to eat, how to jump, how to feed, how to sleep, government has failed in all ramification. Electricity, we pay for it. Education, we pay for it. Water, we pay for it. So what has government done if they are claiming they have spent 3.3 trillion naira in the last 7, 8 or 9 months? Yeah. What have they done it all?
So, and then that also brings to mind the fact that government is already saying that they want to bring out, or the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari said they want to bring out 100 million people out of poverty. That also shows that government has accepted and recognized that this number of people, or at least this number of people, are living in poverty. But let's hold your thought. Let's go on this short break. When we return, we shall give you more details on this interesting topic. We'll be right back.
When you take a selfie, when you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend the low, I'm okay when you take a selfie, when you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend the low.
Want to shoot a dope music video at 50% discount?
50% discount?
Yeah, 50% discount. Bougie down to Television Nigerian with world-class equipment and a badass expert crew.
Oga, face your camera now. Shh. Continue.
Where was I? Everything extra.
Carolina, you better.
Hurry up.
I know say you know this thing you did do, my girl, say you know. Your body is big and I know say you know.
There's always something happening in the world of entertainment. From trending hot topics to even hotter music videos, the best events, and the most interesting guests, of course. From trending hot topics to even hotter music videos, the best events, and the most interesting guests, of course.
It just pushed me.
So find all of that juiciness and more on Posh Spice, the show that brings you all of the most entertaining content from the entertaining world of entertainment.
That's lit, man!
So watch me bring sizzling hot content to you on Television Nigerian. You can watch us on our nice concert platforms, and if you are not a fan of television, watch us on our social media platforms and our web TV, of course.
Don't miss it. Seriously, don't miss it. My job literally depends.
"54 are in Africa. This means that Africa has more than a quarter of the world's countries. However, Africa only accounts for 17% of the world's population, making Africa the world's poorest inhabited continent. At present, 23 of the 54 African countries are poor countries, where the per capita wealth is under $1,000 per year, or less than $3 per day, explaining why lots of Africans live below the poverty line. Yet Africa is resource rich and has approximately 30% of the world's remaining natural resources, and there is a lot of interest and foreign investment coming into many African countries. Economists expect that the combined GDP of West, East, Central, and Southern Africa will hit $29 trillion by the year 2050. This means that all things kept constant, the countries in this region will become middle-class countries by 2050. In this video, we investigate why some countries in the world are doing well and why African countries have stagnated or grown far slower, and ultimately, we would like to answer the question with some ways in which we can end poverty in Norway. This is then followed by Australia.
If you're just joining in, this is Daybreak Africa, reaching you live on the television Nigerian
Norway.
platform. We still
This
have
is
our guest, Mr. Akande, in the studio discussing the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. Mr. Akande, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so according to that report that we just worked, we saw that Africa has more population that suffers poverty, and with all of the resources that are available to us, how come? Is it that we're not putting these resources to good use? How come we're still within the poverty line?
Well, let me start by saying this: that even before 1999, the succeeding governments have at all time handed the Nigerian resources to individuals who at all time have used those resources in enriching themselves and their family. And it's on that note that I want to bring this to our notice, that as far as Nigeria is the poorest, the capital of the poverty nation in the world, we are still owing the richest man one of the richest man in the world. I think the richest in Africa, which is Aliko Dangote. What that implies, or what that brought to our sense, is that despite the poverty that we are talking about, we still have we have one person that is even richer than the whole Nigeria itself. The resources of this nation has been handed over to people like that.
No, sorry to cut you in. I'd like us to talk about Africa in general instead of just focusing on Nigeria.
Yeah, well, the same thing is applicable to every other nation in Africa. The South Africans that are now protesting against Nigerians, that they should go back home, are the post-apartheid struggle that they had. The same policy that we've adopted in the area of economy, that's the same policy that they have also advanced. They've put the resources of their own country, likewise every other African country, into the hands of the few individuals in order to enrich themselves and against the mass majority of the working people in the country.
Okay, so if I get you correctly, you're saying the main cause of this poverty in African nations is more on leadership and governance.
Yes, it's on leadership, it's on government through their policies, their economic policy that has made it very simple for individuals like Dangote to be in custody of our national resources, like Obajana cement industry. If we come to...
Would you also think that he is only taking advantage of the resources that a nation, a government is not taking advantage of?
No, well, that's, to me, is a wrong statement. Because if you say government have not taken care of it, what are the indications that have shown to us to show or to back the evidence that this is how it goes? The point is that...
No, the point I'm trying to make is, for instance, the Benue Cement Company, for instance, was left in the hands of government. And because government over the years could not manage it, the same government said, okay, we want to get people to manage it and privatize it or sold it to somebody. Yes, and so is it that the government is not able to do this thing, so they give it to people who, definitely, if I am given such opportunity, I would want to benefit. First of all, make profit out of it. So is it that, because if government were managing it properly or taking advantage of these resources, I'm not sure we will be allowing individuals run or take advantage of this.
Let me tell you, it's a very simple economic analysis. The point is that these elements, the political office holders at all time knows that this thing is just like a cow milk to them. So in that manner, it was not, when it was under government, it was not democratically run then. What do I mean by democratic running of such establishment? Is that the community, there should be committee in the town. There should be committee of the working people of the student rank and file to know, to seek about how much do they have in such establishment, how much are they spending, how much is it going out, who are to employ, and others. But it has been handled in a very bureaucratic way in order to make it not to be successful. And because if you're saying this has not, because we had people, most Nigerians that were employed then were employed by all these ministries. Yes. We have one network, we have a Bank of Africa, we have all those things in place then. And those are the institutions that have employed most of the Nigerians in the past. It's not because of since the time this thing has been conceptualized or privatized to those people, what has been the development in that regard? The people employed in that place, in that sector, they don't have access to so many things. Democratic rights of those workers working there are not in place. They have no right to associate with union. They have no all these democratic rights that surrounds working conditions. They are not there for them. We have Dangote cement industry. We have graduates, masters and PhD holders who are asked to apply for driver as drivers in that establishment. We know what happened. They said after 3 or 4 years, if they could be able to manage that truck very well, they are going to hand it over to them. But what has happened? They have more than 50 cases in the court of law as I'm talking to you. The drivers of Dangote cement industry in Lagos protest almost every week in Lagos because of all this bureaucratic management and all this way of managing that sector.
This brings us back to the capitalist economy that you talked about earlier. That means, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of African countries operate on this capitalist economy where they hand over
the resources
to a few individuals to control the economy of that country. Okay, then this would now bring us to the next question. What then are the measures do you think should be put in place to help eradicate poverty? Because it's very obvious that a lot of African countries were still suffering, and children have to be put into consideration.
Children are suffering
because we claim they are the future of tomorrow, and today they're already suffering. A lot of malnourished children are out there, so there's lots of poverty in the land, especially in Africa. What measures do you think should be put in place?
The first thing that we have to do is that the national economy and the national resources or the national parastatals should be taken back from the private individual to the public for the public ownership. And not just handing it too far back to the government, but democratic management of it. We make the process very speedy and make the effect of that realistic to feasible to everybody. What do I mean? Power holding sector, the power sector, I mean to say, was handed over to private individual at 500 billion naira. Ordinarily, that sector worth $1.3 trillion. It was just a mere rip-off of public interest or public resources to the private individual. And these elements, the discos, gencos, and all allied, they are still owing the federal government today. Even the money they ask them to be paying annually, they are not remitting it as a when due. All those things, if this kind of sector is handed back to the government, under the government under the public ownership, then we can now put in place the committee which can be at all time checkmate the activities of those parastatals. For instance, if we have a cement company in an environment like this, we should have the committee of youths, of students, of workers, of community leaders, of traditional rulers. We are at one time going to be checkmating the activities of such establishment. It's not that we just give it to one person and he will sit down in the corridor of his house dictating what is going to happen in such the sector. And at the end of the day, they invest money, gather money to their own aggrandizement and for their own personal use.
So do you also think that the citizens of countries in Africa have not risen to the responsibility of demanding for transparency in how their resources are being run?
Most of the Nigerian and the African youth, I don't know, they are yet to understand that. And the reason to that is that the education sector at most of our schools has been designed in a way to suit this capitalist system. If you ask even an economics student now, what is preferable to be choosing within capitalism and socialism. They will go ahead and say, if I could have money with my family, what concerns me with others?
So everyone has this capitalist ideology.
Because it has been fixed in the system itself, and even the education system, it has been fixed. All they teach students in schools now is that how to look for a way, make sharp money, quick money, and get out of the country, or to live above every other person. They've never think for once that, okay, what should be made available in the society. If the society is going to work, the people in that area should, number one, have a quality education. There should be need for provision of water, sanitation, sanitary basis, and other things in the society. But those things are not there. And these youth are yet to understand. Even the youth are yet to understand. We have upper power, somewhere like IMF and World Bank, using their own authority to crash down those revolts, also those actions in local places or in countries. We see what they did on Venezuela recently. They imposed Guaido as a president in the place of what's the name of their president, the democratically elected representative. They are now went ahead to force their own president on such nation. Those are the kind of things we see. But it will require a continuous sensitization and education of people, most especially the working people and the young in the society, in order to orientate them towards this Marxist idea, the socialist ideology, that the resources of the nation needs to be collectively managed and democratically controlled by the people, by the farmers, by the workers, by everybody in the society, in order for the society to move forward.
Quite an interesting one.
It's quite explicit.
Explicit.
That means the African youth has to be more responsible. We don't have to keep having this nonchalant attitude towards our economy, and because that's what causes all of this poverty.
And then somebody also mentioned the last time that poverty also leads to the insecurities that we suffer, because people are looking for legal and mostly illegal means to survive. So if we tackle poverty, we will be tackling not just the survival of our citizens across Africa, but the security of even the elite in the society.
Very well, very well. I totally agree with that, because in every society we have to at all time place that responsibility on people.
Yes.
So at all time knows what is right to put in place.
Yeah.
Thank you so
much,
Mr. Akonde, for joining us this morning to talk about the eradication of poverty. And this is still Daybreak Africa, reaching you live on television, Nigeria. And we're going to take you through a report on how we can end poverty in Africa. Daybreak Africa continues shortly after this report. Do stay with us.
Of the 196 countries in the world, 54 are in Africa. This means that Africa has more than a quarter of the world's countries. However, Africa only accounts for 17% of the world's population, making Africa the world's poorest inhabited continent. At present, 23 of the 54 African countries are poor countries, where the per capita wealth is under $1,000 per year, or less than $3 per day, explaining why lots of Africans live below the poverty line. Yet Africa is resource rich and has approximately 30% of the world's remaining natural resources, and there is a lot of interest and foreign investment coming into many African countries. Economists expect that the combined GDP of West, East, Central and Southern Africa will hit $29 trillion by the year 2050. This means that all things kept constant, the countries in this region will become middle-class countries by 2050. In this video, we investigate why some countries in the world are doing well and why African countries have stagnated or grown far slower, and ultimately, we would like to answer the question with some ways in which we can end poverty in Africa. So what makes countries rich? The first thing to understand how we can end poverty in Africa is to understand how countries get rich. The secrets to a country's wealth can be divided into three: systems and structures, geography, and people. Let's look at each of this in detail. The first thing that makes some countries rich is its systems and structures. According to the United Nations Human Development Index, which ranks countries by the opportunities and comforts that the citizens can access, the richest country in the world is Norway. This is then followed by Australia, Switzerland, Germany, and Denmark. If we look at each of these rich countries, we find one important thing that they have in common, and this is that they have a great education system. Most of the developed countries either provide free or highly subsidized education from preschool to secondary and even undergraduate and graduate level. A good education system enables more people to use their talent and to earn money. This undoubtedly leads to a more developed society. If we want to end poverty in Africa, a significant chunk of investment needs to be put into the education sector. The second piece in systems and structures is governance. By governance, we are referring to the establishment and implementation of policies that foster economic growth. The richest countries in the world have the best governance, and the poorest have the worst governance. The richest countries in the world are also the least corrupt ones. According to Transparency International, Denmark, Norway, and Switzerland are among the top 10 least corrupt countries in the world. And at the bottom of the list, we find many African countries. Even the largest countries in Africa are not spared, with Nigeria tied with Kenya at position 144, Egypt tied with Algeria at position 105, and South Africa tied with Morocco at position 73. When countries are corrupt, they face a double-edged sword where they cannot collect enough taxes and cannot use the little that they collect to drive growth and reduce poverty. Without enough taxes, or with lots of taxes being misused, the poor countries cannot invest in important sectors such as education, health, security through police and the military, and public transport. Another way to look at corruption is the concept of clan-based thinking or nepotism. In many situations in African countries, whether it is an open position at a company or a tender for a service, the award is often given based on who you know. It could be your uncle, your sister, your brother, your cousin, and even based on tribal or political affiliation, rather than giving this to the best candidate for the job. As a result, the system is built to support clan-based thinking, thus preventing access to the larger population that can possibly deliver more if given an equal opportunity, and preventing the use of objective performance assessment strategies. The second reason why African countries are poor is because of geography. This channel is partially inspired by Wendover Productions. Sam from Wendover Productions has made many videos on the geography problems of different countries, and he shows how geography greatly contributes to a country's success or failure. In general, poor countries have poor geography, and some of the poorest countries are in the tropics. This is because life is way more difficult in the tropics than everywhere else. In tropical countries, agriculture is much tougher. This is because they can only grow plants that can tolerate the higher heat in the tropics, and these plants also must survive with worse soil. Historically, agriculture was the backbone of many economies, and without a thriving agricultural sector, it is hard for many countries to thrive. On the other hand, many domesticated animals that are used in farming must survive the tough heat in order to help the ordinary man to make plowing, harvesting, and transportation easier. In tropical Africa, the tsetse fly that leads to sleeping sickness is also a huge threat. This small fly is only present in Africa because of the tropical climate, and it makes animals sleepy or inactive, thus decreasing their productivity. Humans in the tropic also suffer lots of issues. There are many tropical diseases that are not found anywhere else in the world. These include malaria, tuberculosis, sleeping sickness, dengue fever, and river blindness. These diseases, coupled with the lower levels of education among Africans, create lots of challenges in the society, reducing productivity and the ability for Africans to develop and adopt technology that increases agricultural productivity and their ability to amass wealth. Earlier in the video, we mentioned about 30% of the world's remaining natural resources being in Africa. Natural resources often help a country get rich when they are harvested. However, natural resources in many African countries are real trouble. With the lack of systems and structures, the presence of natural resources only helps the rich to get richer, and the poor get even poorer. Look at examples such as the Democratic Republic of Congo, one of the world's most mineral-rich countries, however, among the most corrupt countries in the world. The rich who benefit from DRC's mineral resources fund the rebels with guns and create the unrest that enables them to get richer at the expense of the poor. The last factor in determining a country's wealth status is its people. What the population think, feel, and believe makes a big difference in determining whether a country will be rich or not. A country that embraces innovation and out-of-the-box thinking will invariably grow faster than one that embraces clan-based thinking and prevents the larger population from having equal opportunities to grow and prosper. A stunning statistic that comes when we look at the African people is religion. The richest countries in the world are some of the least religious ones. 70% of the population in 19 of the richest countries in the world believe that religion is not important. Looking at many African countries, religion is greatly entrenched into people's way of lives. Almost everyone in Africa is a believer in one religion or another. 45% of Africans are Christians and another 45% are Muslims. The question that comes to mind is, why is religion bad for wealth creation? This is because religion is founded on belief in a spiritual being and life in the next world. Thus, religion is against materialism. The irony in religion is that while the preaching in many churches is against materialism, the preachers are often spotted with top-of-the-range cars and even jets. If religion was about focusing less on material things and more on the next world, why do these preachers portray very materialistic lives? In many African countries, clan-based thinking plays a big role in elections. In many countries, you will find that the father or even the village elders decide who the family or community will vote in. Many voters follow the recommendations of their opinion leaders, who politicians greatly reward for their influence. Africa's elections are some of the most expensive in the world and the most heated. During the election period, starting a few months or even years before the election and ending a few months or years post the election, many African economies stagnate and many investors also flee the countries. While we can do very little to change the geography of the African countries, we can greatly influence how systems and the people impact the development in the continent. 50% of the effort should be put in ensuring that African countries have great systems and structures. This includes building good education systems, promoting sectors such as transport, security, agriculture, education, and health, and stopping the leaking bucket that is corruption. The people in African countries should also invest their time in growing their education levels, since education has been shown to have a huge impact in a person's ability to amass wealth. Africans must also vote for the right leaders, those who do not foster clan-based thinking and those who deliver systems and structures to foster economic growth.
It's still Daybreak Africa on Television Nigeria. That was an interesting report on why people live in poverty, or why Africans still live in poverty. Now, on to our next report. We're going to look at the benefits of aerobics. Stay with us.
To this episode of Healthy Living. Today we are looking at benefits of aerobic exercises. First, what is aerobic exercise? Aerobic exercise is a physical exercise of low or high intensity that depends primarily on the aerobic energy generating process. It is also known as cardio. It is also an exercise that requires pumping of oxygenated blood by the heart to deliver oxygen to the working muscles. Aerobic exercises stimulate the heart rate and breathing rate to increase in a way that can be sustained for the exercise session. Besides strengthening the heart, let's look at other benefits. We have mental health benefits. Aerobic exercise has been shown to increase your confidence, emotional stability, memory, and brain function. We have the health benefits. Besides strengthening your heart and lungs, aerobic exercise can help lower your cholesterol, reduce risks of type 2 diabetes, improve your immune function, and lower your blood pressure. Furthermore, we have the physical benefits. Aerobic exercises burns up calories, which can in turn help you shed excess weight. Aerobic exercise also tones your muscles and improves your body posture. We have the fitness benefits. In addition to looking better and being healthier, aerobic exercises increases your stamina, giving you more energy for both work and play. More so, it reduces diseases. The extra weight is an aggravating factor in the beginning of a heart disease. High blood pressure, stroke, diabetes, and certain types of cancer. When we lose weight, the risk to develop these diseases is at a lower rate. Aerobic exercises increases life longevity. Research has it that regular exercises helps in increasing your lifespan. It lowers the accumulation of lactic acid, which causes pain and muscle burning. Aerobic exercises helps you to sleep better. It has greater resistance to fatigue. It reduces psychological stress, improves mood with more vitality, and reduces risks of depression and anxiety. We have seen most of the reasons why aerobic exercises should be part of your healthy lifestyle. It is also important to talk to your doctor. By so doing, you choose the activity that you enjoy. As you get the recommended 30 minutes of moderately intense aerobic exercise 5 days a week, you should be exercising at a level that just lets you keep up conversation during the activity. If you're healthy enough to exercise at high rate intensity, make sure you're not exceeding your target heart rate. Drink plenty of fluids before, during, and after your workouts. Avoid high-intensity aerobic activity for 1 to 2 hours after eating. Skip your workouts when you're ill or overtired. Aerobic exercise is beneficial if it's done in shorter segments throughout the day. Even in your busy schedule, you can find time to have your aerobics, even if it is for 10 minutes. To stay motivated, you can exercise with a friend, a spouse, or a neighbor. Aerobic is best participated with people. Make aerobic exercise a regular part of your healthy lifestyle. And finally, to enjoy the glow of good health, you must exercise, says Jean Tony. This brings us to the end of today's episode of Healthy Living.
And that was Healthy Living with aerobic exercise. Who could have thought aerobic exercise was that helpful? Mr. Quest, have you been doing aerobic exercise?
Guilty as charged. But I know the importance of aerobic exercise, just that schedule and all will not allow one. But I think having watched this report, I think I should pay close attention and find ways of squeezing time to get myself some exercise.
You know, the thing with exercise is you have to dedicate your time to it. It's more like a religious activity. If you want to, whatever aim you want to achieve, if it's either getting fit or say losing weight or whatever it is,
you have to be dedicated to it. You have to probably have a gym instructor. You have to have a gym that you go to. Say on the weekend, like probably it's during the weekend that you have time to do all of that. But we're also today being International Day for the Eradication of Poverty.
Okay.
We're talking of people first of all being able to eat before they can look for ways to keep fit or even lose the weight that has been generated from eating. So
like yesterday we talked about World Food Day, and where we talked about eating healthy. And so today we're talking. We just talked about aerobic exercise. So I think it's more like it's important. You feed well, you eat healthy, and then you exercise.
But first of all, I like the circle you created. You eat healthy, then you exercise, so that we don't go and pass out while trying to exercise.
And you don't just keep consuming junks and eating whatever you like watching.
I know that exercise is important, and even for we that are mostly busy, apart from looking for finding time to do it, even on your decks, you can do a few things to stretch out your bones, stretch out your veins, and allow the smooth flow of blood in your system.
Yeah, definitely. So exercise is something that we should add to probably our daily routine. And if you can't do it on a daily basis, make it a weekend routine.
Or look for a specific time in the week where you can.
I think I like those people who do early morning walks and running and jogging. Because you see most people on the streets in the morning, they want to sweat it out. Whatever carbohydrate, calories you must have gathered in your system, you need to do all of this exercise, especially aerobic exercise.
And it allows for regeneration too. Rejuvenation, sorry to say. It allows for rejuvenation of your cells, your body. So even people that exercise, you found that their skin glows better, and they look younger. They always look younger.
You know, I think an average Nigerian is too busy hustling,
looking for how to cross the poverty line.
Yes,
to live above the poverty line.
Which brings us back to the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty.
Yes.
So we tend to neglect that aspect of life where we have to attend to our body. We have to keep our body in checks, because we talked about obesity yesterday as part of the diseases. And so today now, if you don't engage in exercising,
you would end up obese or even die at an early age. So we encourage our viewers to take out time during the week, during the weekends, squeeze out time from your very busy schedule, or like Aisha said, from your hustling schedule, to get yourself some exercise, no matter how small. An exercise a day keep the doctors away and lives your life longer.
Yes, it promotes your life and it gives you a longer life. So we will be going on a short break right now, where when we return, newspaper review is up next. Do stay with us. This is still Daybreak Africa, reaching you live on television Nigerian platform. I'll be bringing you a newspaper review shortly, but just before then, today is World International Day for Eradication of Poverty, and we really need to talk about issues related to poverty. Because and we'll have to go to Ghana. We'll have to go to Ghana, where international organizations have taken up the responsibility to empower the urban poor. Do stay with us. Daybreak Africa continues shortly.
Jamestown, or Gamashi, is one of Accra's oldest communities and occupies a special place in Ghana's history. Independence was declared a few miles from here and was the location for the famous Independence Boat Race in 1957. The old days of excited optimism has certainly gone. Today, Gamashi is a shadow of its former self, with several social and environmental challenges.
Recently, Gamashi has been earmarked as a slum area. We have sanitation problems, stagnant waters all over the community.
We used to have quite a dense population with very nice story buildings until 1939 when the earthquake devastated this area. So most of the people, especially the elite who could afford, moved out. Over the years, the houses have been deteriorating or falling apart.
One thing that characterizes Gamashi is its numerous alleyways connecting the households.
Most of these alleys link the family houses. Ghana community is a close-knitted community.
Most of those alleyways have now been paved with the support of CHF working with local community partners. This intervention has solved one of the most basic but persistent problems: flooding. Before the paving, an alleyway in Gamashi could look like this.
Anytime it rains, we have so many problems. Stagnant waters all over the community, breeding mosquitoes, and we all know what mosquitoes bring to the people in this community. We have malaria, people were falling sick. We realized that the situation was very bad.
The paving helped to level the surface and then to also afford the flood water to move through the community into a bigger drain that carried out of the place.
People from the community, especially the youth, were selected to be part of the construction and they play an active role in it.
The new pavements have also become a great asset, not least for Dauda, the local acrobat. Not to mention his schoolboy protege.
The youth in this community really enjoy their sports, and they engage in sports like table tennis, football, weightlifting, and boxing. All the big names that we have in our boxing arena, most of them come from Gamashi. Aikwote, Azuma Nelson, Bukum Bankung.
In spite of the enormous sporting talent in Gamashi, unemployment is high.
Most of them fell out of school, so they are not literate, they don't have skills.
We identified youth unemployment as a major problem.
So as part of the agenda, we are imparting skills to them.
ICT training, where we train the youth in basic software development.
CHF assisted groups of the youth in the community to go and learn basketry, how to use bamboo to produce crafts.
Business processing, outsourcing industry.
Some are learning mobile phone.
Everybody uses mobile phone.
Assembling and maintenance.
Ruben used to be a footballer, but coping with lingering injury meant he found repairing phones a surer bet to earning a living.
CHS have done well, very, very well. Because a lot of people in the community are not doing anything. At all, when they wake up in the morning, when they eat, sit down, chat till the evening, then they'll go and sleep. Without making this step, I couldn't get this to do. Yeah, I make a very big step.
Ruben now plans to acquire all the tools of his trade and open a shop. Ashietu also benefited from the CHF-sponsored IT training program.
It was a 6-month course. After the training, I applied at the National Youth Employment, and then some few months later they called me for interview, and then they picked me. So I'm now working with them. The way our community is, we don't have money. It's a very poor community. So this program has helped a lot of people I know, including me myself. So I'm urging them, it will be very good if they still continue. It will help our brothers coming up and our sisters.
Nima is one of Accra's congested and deprived communities. Over the years, Nima has served as first point of call in Accra for Muslim migrants from northern Ghana. The alleyways are narrow and the gutters choked with waste. Here, sanitation is one of the worst in the capital. The number of empty water cans in the household suggests that water shortage is a perennial problem, and this is one area where the collaboration between CHF and local NGOs has yielded remarkable results. Kadir Ibrahim is the secretary to Nima Community Development Committee.
Community people were organized, the chiefs, the imams, the youth groups, the women groups.
The collaborative effort has also borne fruit with the provision of household toilets.
It's a kind of yenibino. I near Quabonti. A boy was a wet man you found without no your room. Your super so quatefia. I guess I won't even quit. Now they say, what by our hands, if you cry, we have from how now sorrow cry with me. Abba, I saw them up, Tiffy, Unsuru, Bibia how. Into Tiffina, my energy. So a boy and pa.
In spite of the progress made, the problems are many and more interventions are needed to minimize the challenges here.
This is still Daybreak Africa, a wonderful report right there. We went all the way to Ghana and we saw how the urban poor are being empowered as a means to lift them out of poverty, a way to eradicate poverty, because the poverty in Africa is way too much and it's high time we started devising means to eradicate poverty. And thank you so much. We went to Ghana. And up next is Spot Update. Stay with us. This is still Daybreak Africa. We'll be right back.
In sports, Manchester United co-owner Kevin Glazer is ready to sell his stake in the club. Glazer and his 5 siblings each own a percentage of the 90% stake the family have with the club. Kevin's stake of 13% is believed to be worth around €270 million, and he is ready to cash in, with United set to suffer its first fall in revenue for years. But his decision to sell up does not mean the Glazers' tenure is coming to an end, with his siblings now struggling to do the same in the short term. Rakiti has put Manchester United and Juventus on red alert as reports suggest the Croatians has his eyes on a January exit from Barcelona. Having previously stated, Marcel says the midfielder is seriously weighing up the possibility of ending his 5-year association with the Spanish giants due to lack of playing time. He said that he wants to play and not just be part of the team, and further says he will do everything possible to change his situation. Nemanja Matic is set for a January exit from Manchester United. Inter Milan are reportedly keen on taking him to Serie A, despite United's worst start to a campaign for 30 years. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has still been reluctant to use Matic since the Serbian appearing in just 4 of 11 matches so far this term. The 31-year-old's lack of playing time has seen him become a target in January, with his current deal set to expire at the end of the season. According to reports in Italy, Inter are pondering a swoop for the midfielder in January. 18-year-old Burundi's Sadana Himana has emerged the winner of the women's single of first leg of the 2019 Lagos Open International Tennis Championship. She defeated her Brazilian opponent Laura Pigozzi to pick the top prize. Despite playing in the championship for the first time, the Burundian showed no nerves to win the tournament and became the toast of the Lagos fans. In the men's single, Frenchman Calvin Hemery dominated the final match, beating Bahrain's Setik Aldin in 1 hour and 6 minutes to emerge the champion. Super Eagles goalkeeper Maduka Okoye is in cloud 9 after making his international debut for Nigeria in a 1-1 draw against Brazil at Singapore's National Stadium on Sunday. Nigerian first-choice goalkeeper Francis Uzoho was stretched off in the second half of the encounter after suffering a horrific injury. The 20-year-old landed awkwardly and twisted his entire lower leg while trying to deal with a cross from Brazil midfielder Casemiro. The Fortuna Düsseldorf 2 goalkeeper, who replaced Uzoho in the 65th minute, expressed his delight at finally donning the green and white jersey, while also wishing his rival a speedy recovery. Meanwhile, injured Super Eagles goalkeeper Francis Uzoho has been ruled out for 6 months after tearing his ligament in Sunday's friendly against Brazil. Uzoho fell on his back while contesting for the ball inside the penalty box in the 22nd minute of the encounter, but was treated on the pitch only to be stretched off when it became apparent that he could no longer continue. He will now miss next month's 2021 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying features against Benin and Lesotho. La Liga giants Barcelona are reportedly ready to dole out 8 million, about 301 billion naira, for Nigeria-born Germany junior international Karim Adeyemi. Adeyemi, who currently has a 3-year running contract with FC Red Bull Salzburg of Austria, has been on the radar of former Indomitable Lions of Cameroon assistant coach and Bakwa Youth chief Patrick Kluivert. The Catalans, according to Mundo Deportivo, believe it will be a good move to go for the 17-year-old striker, who has been likened to Ansu Fati, who only last month joined the senior team of the Catalans, becoming the youngest player in the history of La Liga to score an assist in the same match at the age of 16 years and 318 days. Adeyemi was born in Munich, Germany, to a Nigerian father and a Romanian mother. He's said to possess a lot of qualities and appears to be in a hurry to prove his worth. There are strong indications that Barcelona will make a dash for the former FC Liefering of Austria is early January. And that was the sports update. I am David Gold.
David Gold with a sports update right there.
And that also is quite interesting in this world of sports update, and that is what you get on Daybreak Africa every morning on Television Nigeria. We keep you updated with the news in all sectors, in sports, entertainment,
business, politics, entertainment, fashion,
everything. So
healthy living,
aerobics. Let's not forget to go do some aerobics.
And then today is World International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. And I feel within our own individual capacities, we should be able to eradicate poverty.
Yes.
Go out there and involve more in the economy, probably agriculture or entrepreneurship, as a way of eradicating your immediate family,
yourself out of
poverty. And then your family, and then it affects the people around you.
And then also that the too much or over dependence on government will not take us anywhere as a people. We also, even if we're going to depend on government, we as citizens should wake up and demand more accountability from people, from our representatives, from our local representatives, from our federal representative, so that on our own, we are doing our best and requiring and demanding that the people that represent us or that speak on our behalf also do play their own part.
Definitely. This has been Daybreak Africa. That's the much we have for you today, and we do hope to come your way bright and early tomorrow morning to give you update on Daybreak Africa. I'm Aisha Salihu.
And I am Quest Ahundu. Have a lovely day.